Good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar. I'm Pam Dollar. I'm the Director of the Mississippi Parent Training and Information Center. Before we get started with our webinar, a little bit of housekeeping. I always like to make sure everyone is hearing my voice, because there have been a couple of times we had audio difficulties. If you can, there should be a panel on the right-hand side of your screen. If you can hear my voice, you should have a raised hand symbol, or a symbol of a hand. If you can click on that, let me know that you're hearing my voice. Okay? Thank you. It looks like everyone can hear. Fine. One of the questions that we usually get is, will I get a copy of the presentation? And yes, you will. Everyone who participates in the webinar will receive an email following the webinar with a copy of the presentation that Patty will be presenting. Also, you will receive a link to a survey that we hope you fill out. That will help us in the future in improving our webinars and making them better. Also, Patty will leave time at the end of the webinar for any questions that you may have. And so, if you think of a question along the way, type it into the question box that's on the right-hand side of your screen. It will either be a question box or a chat window. Your screen looks a little different than mine, and so I'm not sure exactly what you're seeing, because there should be a place to type in the question that you might have. I think that's all of the housekeeping. So our webinar today is Parenting with PBIS, or Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And Patty Goche will be presenting for us today. Patty is the family coordinator for REACH Mississippi, and she'll tell you a little bit more about REACH. It is a statewide project around positive behavior interventions and support. And so, Patty, thank you for being with us today, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Pam. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I hope I have some information that you will find useful and helpful. As Pam said, I will gladly share this presentation with her at the end, and she will, in turn, share it with you all. So we'll get started. So, Parenting with PBIS, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, Overview and Tools to Use. That's what we're looking for, practical information that we can actually use. So who we are, a little bit about us. REACH Mississippi is Realizing Excellence for All Children in Mississippi, and it's the Mississippi's State Personnel Development Grant. Every state has one, and it used to be called the SIG, the State Improvement Grant, but now it's the State Personnel Development Grant, and we're very fortunate to have it in our state because it has funded and facilitated us being able to spread PBIS, and I'll explain to you a little bit more about what that is. So we provide support to schools and districts across the state in the research-based practices and evidence-based practices of PBIS and family involvement. And as Pam said, I'm Patty Goche, and I'm the family. My title has recently changed. I'm having to adjust to saying I'm the Family, Data, and Dissemination Coordinator. Many hats we wear in this new, we were just refunded for 5 more years from the federal government, OSEP, Office of Special Education Programs, and we're very happy that we were refunded. We feel like we've made a lot of strides in the right direction through this process, and many efforts by many folks across the state, be it us, teachers, administrators, family members, community members, all working together. Some positive change. We've seen some positive change, and the good thing is our data reflects that. So what is PBIS? I'm not sure if you're familiar with what it is or not, but it's Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. It uses instructional methods to teach, and this is the buzzword for this whole presentation. Everybody write this one down. Teach, 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 teach. That's what this is about. We teach appropriate behavior to change a child's environment so he or she will behave appropriately more often and act out less often. It's offering them a window into a view into what it could be if they chose to act differently. What these good things can happen, you know, it's about choices. and we teach them to make the appropriate choices. So this is a little bit about how it works for the Mississippi Department of Education. Their response to intervention, or RTI, if you're familiar with that. This is their essential elements, and under Tier 1, they require a system of behavioral supports at school and district level. Well, we are that. School-wide behavior support plan that addresses the elements of positive behavior support. That's what PBIS is. It is a school-wide approach. That means it encompasses the campus. It's all over the campus, from the school bus drivers, who are the first ones to have interaction with kids in the mornings, to the cafeteria workers who feed them breakfast, hall monitors or folks in the hallway, teachers, PE coaches, everyone, administration, everyone's involved. It's not just the kids, it's not just the teachers, it's everyone. It's the community as a whole on campus, including every parent or family member that goes on that campus. It's a proactive approach, which means we encourage positive behavior and ahead of time. We look for ways and things that might cause bumps in the road for the kids, and try to put things in place. It's being proactive. We encourage positive behavior and try to stop misbehavior before it starts by looking at the problems, anticipating the things that might cause problems. It's individualized to the unique features of each school. So while it's generic in the fact that it's PBIS, it's positive behavior interventions and supports, and the overall theme and the umbrella is similar. It's the same process, but it looks differently from campus to campus to campus, which is exactly how it should be. There are no two schools that are exactly alike that function the same exact way. So that's what we want. We want each school to have follow its own flavor, its own culture, its own, the feel, the vibe, as long as they are practicing it and working towards fidelity, then it's okay. It's a team-based approach to problem solving, meaning that it's not one person, it's not top-down decision-making, it's inclusive of all team members. And each school has a team, and we require that each team has family representation, which is a good thing because we know that the family perspective is a very, very important one. And it's data-based decision-making, meaning that it is based on that individual school's data. They look at their numbers, they decide to calculate, tally, where they're getting their most write-ups or their ODRs, office discipline referrals, and if it's the cafeteria, then they use that data to say, okay, it happens at this time of day, 3 days a week, what goes on at that time, what can we do, what interventions can we put in place, are they working, then we follow up, and so it's really data-driven, that individual school's numbers and data and what things are taking place. So outcomes of school-wide PBIS. Well, this is the way we sell it to the principals, the superintendents, the school boards. It's a buying back of instructional time, because think about it this way. By decreasing office discipline referrals, or ODRs, as I just said, and suspensions, the equivalent of 72 days of instructional time is recaptured for students attending a PBIS school. So the way this is calculated is a very, very, very low estimation of the time is 30 minutes. An office discipline referral takes 30 minutes. And from what we understand, in actuality, it takes much longer than that. From the moment that the child exhibits the behavior that gets them in trouble, to the teacher takes the time to write them up, hands them the paper, sends them down the hallway to the principal's office. How long do they sit in the principal's out there with the secretary before they are actually dealt with? How much longer does it take them to go back to the process, get back to the classroom, blah, blah, blah. So how much educational time is lost in this? So our goal is to change that, to make sure that we buy back that time just by tweaking some of the things the systems that are already in place. It's about creating an environment that is conducive to learning and allowing them as much sync time or learning time as they can possibly get. So think about it this way. remember what our buzzword is. If a child does not know how to read, we teach them to read. If a child does not know how to multiply, we teach them to multiply. If they don't know how to spell or ride a bike or swim or drive a car, what do? We teach them how to do these things. But if a child doesn't know how to behave, typically what is done is we punish them. Think about it, what should we be doing? We teach them their expectations, what we expect of them as parents, what the teachers teach them, what is expected of them in their classrooms. We teach them if we go to church, if we go to the library, if we go to the Walmart or the grocery store, we teach them what our expectations, how this should go. This is what you want to see. Because if you don't, you're setting them up for failure, which in turn means that you yourself as well set up for failure. So the goals of PBIS is to help teach the social skills needed for the child to have a high quality of life. As I said, I'm a parent, I am a mother, I have 2 grown sons. I have a 27-year-old, can't believe he's 27, of course. And I have a 25-year-old. My 25-year-old has autism. So I was a mother of a child in general education. I was the mother of a child that's receiving special education services. So I've sort of like been there and done that, seen it all, so to speak. But ultimately, what we all, as family members, we all want our children to be successful. We all want our children to have a high quality of life. So doing these things, teaching them early, prepares them and sets them up for success. So we want to help children understand that a child understand that his or her appropriate behavior is far more effective than the inappropriate behavior in getting what she wants and needs. But if a child knows that they can stomp their feet or show themselves, show out, and ultimately get what they want, if that's what they've been taught, kids are savvy, y'all, they pay attention, then we got to back up. We have to back up. We got to do things differently. So why PBIS works? Well, if children are only being told what not to do, how will they know what to do? Think about it. How many times do we all as parents and as human beings say, don't do that. I said stop, stop, don't, stop. How often are we telling them what not to do versus telling them exactly what it is we want them to do, what we expect of them, what we want to see? And then we reinforce it, because the things you reinforce the most are the things you will see the most. So we focus on what we want the child to do, not what not to do. We teach them the appropriate behaviors and what is expected of them. The child is given attention for the appropriate behavior, but not the inappropriate behavior. And sometimes it's hard to do that little bit of a paradigm shift and focus on the positive stuff and try to ignore as much of the negative stuff as possible. But it's the little behaviors, those little behaviors. If you can ignore some of those and shower them with attention for those little positive things that you see, then you'll start seeing more of the positive things. And we identify the factors in the environment that might help a child behave appropriately. That's what I was saying. We set them up for success. We're proactive. So PBIS in schools, this is the government speak. The U.S. Department of Education has set a priority for disciplining students in ways that work, not so much punitive. U.S. Department of Education wants states to adopt and use PBIS in schools. In Mississippi, we have more than 400 schools that have started using PBIS for Rich Mississippi through us, through our grant. And we now have 56 PBIS model sites in Mississippi. That means a model site is a demonstration site, a school that passes nationally standardized tests. So it's the same test schools in Maryland or California or Florida or Illinois, all the same tests. So if you're a model site there, you know, we're equal to, the schools here are equal to the schools anywhere else in PBIS. If you pass the test, you pass the test. So those model sites then open their doors for other schools across the state to come in and visit and see how the process works. And like I said, they can then take it back to their school, get some ideas, and make it work in their individual school. It's not cookie cutter at all. Philosophically, it is. As I said, it's an umbrella, so they're all operating on the same principles, but it looks differently, which is exactly how